Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Codiac, Raid Leader for Exiled Power, and today we are talking about the Marksman Hunter in patch 7.0.3. If at any time during the video you want to jump to a section, feel free to click on the annotations linked right now. So let's start with the basics, the class overview. The Hunter is in an interesting spot. You have two specs that are very viable in raiding, Mythic plus dungeons, and then you have one melee spec that is completely off the charts. Nobody even wants to talk about it. But today we are looking at the Marksmanship Hunter. It's an excellent single target and multi-target spec because its multi-target functionality is weaved into its single target functionality. If you're performing well single target, you're most likely performing well multi-target. Now there are some ways to pad your multi-target numbers, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, but overall the Marksman Hunter does both single target and multi-target very well. Now it is a much slower rotation than previous expansions. We're no longer sitting there constantly spamming a button. There are periods where it feels a little spammy because either procs are lining up or you're hitting a window just right, but overall there's a little bit more space than there was in especially Warlords of Draenor. Now it is still the king of switching to ads. Now as a raid leader I am so on top of my team about switching to ads, killing priority targets, things like that. And the Marksmanship Hunter does a great job of that because they can switch on a dime. Their rotation doesn't really stop based on what target they're on. Now it may get wobbled here or there, but you can switch on a dime and perform just as well, very similarly to some of the other classes that we are seeing right now in the Emerald Nightmare raid. Now it is a very dependent class on item level. So for most of the gearing situations, most of the relic situations, we're looking at item level. Obviously we're going to have a stat priority and we're going to talk about those in a little bit, but item level is king, especially when it comes to the weapon because hunters rely so heavily on weapon damage. So what does it do well? Well, the hunter has a very high burst damage within the proc window. You'll notice that right off the bat you're going to have a very nice parse, but as the fight kind of settles and evens out, you'll start to fall behind, and that's the way that the hunter is designed right now. Now, like I said before, it is a very efficient cleave spec with spread and stacked targets being affected by the hunter's abilities. So it is a great class to have in your raid. Exiled Power currently runs 2 Marksmanship Hunters, and they perform well on most situations. It is the strongest single target hunter spec right now, much further ahead than Beast Mastery, so this is the preferred rating spec. Now, the things it doesn't do well, as I mentioned, cleave is automatic. We don't have very much control over our cleave. The only times we do have control over it is when we hold a barrage. Now, if you're taking that talent, you're most likely not going to want to hold it, but let's talk about, say, a Mythic Nighthendra fight where you're about to have 10 of your raid team get mind controlled. Well, you're definitely going to want to save that barrage or make sure that you have a marked shot ready to go. And guys, unfortunately, the Hunter is still plagued by the RNG. RNG is king with the Marksmanship Hunter, and honestly, there's nothing that you can do. If RNG is not on your side, it's going to kill you no matter what your item level is, and you're going to underperform. One other thing that the Marksmanship Hunter suffers from is a little bit lack of mobility. Now, it is still one of the most highly mobile classes in the game, but compared to the Warlords of Draenor counterpart, the Marksmanship Hunter has lost a little bit of mobility, with aim shot and wind burst being stand and shoot abilities. So not 100% mobile, but definitely an improvement, I guess you can say, on, say, the Demonology Warlock or the Destruction Warlock. Alright, so where does the Marksmanship Hunter fit into your raid? Well, it is a consistent single target spec, doing decent amount of single target damage. Is it going to perform like a Feral Druid or perhaps an Arms Warrior? Definitely not. But it is going to give you that consistent, reliable damage that you know hunters can put out. It is an excellent burst AoE spec, within reason, within the window of opportunity. Now, like I mentioned, a Mythic Nighthendra fight or a fight where ads are about to come out and things line up with the barrage or a mark shot window, things are going to go great for the Marksmanship Hunter. You're going to do a ton of DPS and you're going to help your teams be successful. But it's just one of those things. You don't want to delay too much of your core rotation because of something in the raid. So you have to rely on the efficiency of the AoE cleave embedded into the single target rotation. And as I said before, guys, it is still the ad killer. I still think it's king. I play one, I love one, I know that I can change on a dime to an ad and be high up on the meters in terms of killing that ad, damage done to that specific ad. You can always look at your logs to see where you stack up against other classes. I guarantee you some of the hunters will be at the top. So let's dive right in. Let's take a look at talents here. At 15, we have 3 talents: Lone Wolf, Steady Focus, and Careful Aim. Now, Lone Wolf and Steady Focus are the ones that we are most considered to be acceptable, with Lone Wolf pulling ahead in raid situations. It increases your damage by 18%, but you no longer have a pet. This is pretty standard for most raiders in the game right now. 18% damage buff is just flat out damage output. That's what you want to go for. Moving down to the 30 level tier, we have Lock and Load, Black Arrow, and True Aim. Now, Lock and Load and Black Arrow are interchangeable, but Black Arrow has kind of that weird functionality of summoning a minion that taunts and adds a little bit of damage. It's a very strange ability that doesn't have a lot of application in a raid environment. Now, Lock and Load is RNG based. Your range attacks have an 8% chance to trigger Lock and Load, causing your next 2 aim shots to cost no focus and be instant. So this is what we're talking about with RNG. If you get a few good Lock and Load procs within a fight, you're going to see your numbers increase because you're getting free aim shots. And aim shots are the most spammed and highest output ability that you have consistently throughout a fight. So Lock and Load is definitely your preferred route. Now we can look at True Aim here for a second. Each successive arcane shot or aim shot fired at the same target increases the damage of those shots dealt to the target by 2%, stacking up to 8 times. Now this is a limit to 1 target, so basically you're stuck on a target, stacking up your damage and stacking up a buff that goes up to 8 times. And this just doesn't really fold into the situation that we're currently in Emerald Nightmare. It doesn't sim as high, and it's just not that great. So we're going to look back at Lock and Load. Lock and Load's the one you're going to want to take in this tree here. Next up, we have the 45 level talents: Post Haste, Far Strider, and Dash. Now, there is some debate, some controversy, I guess you can say. Disengage is definitely what you're going to want to take here. Post Haste is definitely what you're going to want to take here. Disengage also frees you from all movement and parry effects and increases your movement speed by 60% for 8 seconds. Now, in my opinion, Dash is also pretty decent because it extends your aspect of the cheetah, but it's just, you know, it's not that great when you consider how good Post Haste is, freeing you from all movement impairments and increasing your movement speed by 60% for 8 seconds. It's just a better output mobility spell, so you're definitely going to want to take that one. Moving down to the 60 level tier, we have Explosive Shot, Sentinel, and Patient Sniper, with Patient Sniper pulling far ahead of the other 2 talents. Patient Sniper: gain the patience of a veteran sniper, increasing your maximum focus by 30 and causing Vulnerable to increase your mark shot and aim shot damage by 150%, but only lasts 6 seconds and no longer stacks. So Patient Sniper opens up the window of Vulnerable, which is what we're going to talk about when we get to rotation. Sentinel, which is not that great, applies Hunter's Marks to all enemies near the target. It's a 30-second cooldown. Meh, it does not do that much good for you. An Explosive Shot, which is a skill shot, I should say, it's just the output's weird, the output's not very good, and the spell itself is really, really clunky and awkward in a raid environment. So just, you know, take it if you want to have fun with it, but never take that in a raid environment. So Patient Sniper, as I said, is going to open up that Vulnerable window, and we're going to talk about that in a few seconds here. Moving down to the 75 level talent, we have Binding Shot, Werven Sting, and Camouflage. Now, this is really dependent on you as a player, what you're doing, what you want to take that's going to give you a little bit of utility. You'll find that most often Binding Shot is the one you want to take. It works well in dungeons, it works well sometimes in a raid environment, very rarely, but hey, it's the 75 level tier. It really doesn't have much to do with your DPS. Take what you feel comfortable with. I recommend Binding Shot. Okay, moving down to the 90 level tier, we have A Murder of Crows, Barrage, and Volley. Well, Barrage is the clear frontrunner for most situations, with A Murder of Crows working very well on pure single target fights. Now, there is some debate Now you have to look at boss by boss. What bosses are you going to need Barrage on? What bosses are you going to need a Murder of Crows on? And you really have to look at the Emerald Nightmare. You have to look at the encounters and you have to look at your team. The output itself is very comparable. So single target fights, you're going to want a Murder of Crows. Multi-target fights, you're going to want Barrage. That depends on your team. It depends on what you're doing in your progression, where you need the help. So be smart. Know which bosses are which types of talents, I guess you could say. And yeah, and then we have volley here. While active, your auto attacks spend 3 focus to also launch a volley of shots that hit the target and all other enemies nearby, dealing 53,835 additional physical damage. Okay, it's cool. I mean, I've seen it used. One of the hunters in our guild, the only other hunter in our guild, uses it in Mythic dungeons and whatnot because he doesn't want to deal with Barrage. I get it. I hear it. I see it. If you want to take that for Mythic Plus dungeons or something like that, you're more than welcome to. Barrage is still my go-to talent for most of the raid environments with a Murder of Crows, sneaking in on most single target fights. And finally, the 100 tier, we have Sidewinders, Piercing Shot, and Trick Shot, with Sidewinders being the clear front runner. Sidewinders and Patient Snipers is the name of the game this expansion. You launch Sidewinders that travel towards the target, weaving back and forth, dealing 105,000 nature damage to each target they hit. Cannot hit the same target twice, and applies vulnerable to all targets hit. So this spell, guys, generates 50 focus and replaces Arcane Shot. This is your main ability that generates focus, but it definitely changes the way you play. And we're going to talk about that in a quick second here. We also have Piercing Shot and Trick Shot. Right now, nobody is taking Trick Shot, so don't even worry about it. And Piercing Shot, you may want to take this in a Mythic Plus environment if you don't trust yourself, if you're in a tight squeeze, a tight Mythic Plus dungeon, and you want to take something that has a little bit more physical control, where you aim it, where you shoot it, kind of thing. So Piercing Shot does do okay in that environment, but in raiding, it's all about the Sidewinders. Now let's take a quick look here at our artifact. Now, the Marksmanship artifact is the Legacy of the Windrunners. It's a pretty cool bow here that grants us the Wind Burst ability. Wind Burst is a very high output spell. Focuses the power of the wind through Thash'dorah, dealing 512,000 physical damage to your target and leaving behind a trail of wind for 5 seconds that increases the movement speed of allies by 50%. In my honest opinion, guys, the movement speed thing is very moot. It does not do that much. I think they just threw it on as an additive. If you're running through it, that's great. If you're not, no big deal. It does put a lot of damage out there, though, so you're going to want to make sure that you're using this on cooldown, and we'll talk about that when we get to the rotation aspect here. Now, the whole thing with the artifact is getting towards Bullseye. Bullseye is the route that you want to take first because it is so damn good. This is the answer to kill shot no longer being a thing. When your abilities damage a target below 20% health, you gain 1% increased critical strike chance for 6 seconds, stacking up to 30 times. So think about this, guys. A boss is at 20%, and you're just pounding him. You're pounding away, damaging him, pumping DPS into him, and you're just gaining stacks and stacks and stacks of crit. You want to stay on that guy, you want to ramp up your stacks, and you want to maintain them, because as soon as you fall off that, you're going to lose crit, and you definitely want that crit because your aim shots are going to just be pumping in damage, right? And that's the answer to kill shot. Kill shot's no longer a thing, so there it is. Bullseye, that's where you want to go. We also have Legacy of the Windrunners, which is a pretty cool ability. Aim shots have a chance to coalesce 6 extra wind arrows that also shoot the target. This is nothing that you control. It's just a pure damage output ability, trait, I guess you could say. It's cool. It does its thing. And then we have one more, Call of the Hunter. When your mark shot has a chance to call forth a barrage of wind arrows that also strike all vulnerable targets. So again, another output ability. You really don't have any control over this. It's just another output ability. So let's talk about relics for a second here. On the Marksmanship weapon, we have Storm, Blood, and Life. Now, this is pretty straightforward, and we're going to talk about this in the gearing section, but item level is king. Right now, my item levels are a little bit low at 850, 865, and 865. Item level is king because it increases the weapon damage, and as a hunter, weapon damage is the key. It is how we do that much damage. So when you're looking for relics, go with item level. It is just a basic rule that you can follow that you will know will be reliable. Now, you also want to look for something that has the quick shot trait, which reduces the cooldown of true shot by 10 seconds. And we're going to talk about true shot in just a second here. But there are a couple drops in the Emerald Nightmare that do reduce the true shot with the quick shot trait here, quick shot relics. So look for those, but ultimately you want to go based on your item level. Alright, so let's talk about True Shot. True Shot is the 1 DPS cooldown that we have. We have one big DPS cooldown. It increases our haste by 40% for 15 seconds and causes Arcane, Multi, and Sidewinders to apply Hunter's Mark, regardless of if marking targets is active or not. It also increases our crit by 50% once we get the Rapid Killing trait. Now, the Rapid Killing trait is on the first path, if you will, towards Bullseye, so you will get that relatively quickly. It is the best cooldown that we have. We want to make sure that we're popping it in the opener and on cooldown, hopefully within a window of opportunity, if you will. Alright, so next up, let's talk about rotation. Murder of Crows. We want to make sure it's up on our targets. It is part of the opening rotation, but we want to make sure it is up on the targets. That's first and foremost. Next, we want to make sure that Mark Shot is being cast within the vulnerable window. We do not want to miss a Mark Shot at the end of our vulnerable window. If you do, you will be missing out on a ton of single target damage. Next, we have Windburst. We want to make sure that Windburst is being cast on cooldown. Save your focus, pool it, make sure you have enough to cast Windburst. Next, we have Barrage. Barrage is a serious cooldown. It does take quite a bit of focus at 60 focus. We want to make sure we have enough focus ready to go to cast Barrage. We want to make sure that we're not casting this in the vulnerable window. Sometimes we can't really help it because we don't want to hold Barrage for too long, but do your best to make sure that you're maximizing the vulnerable window with aim shots and mark shots. Now, if we are in that vulnerable window, we want to start pumping in aim shots, right? It's a focus dump. Aim shot, aim shot, aim shot, aim shot in the vulnerable window. And that rotation is going to kind of look like this. You're going to cast Sidewinders on a target. You're going to get 1 or 2 aim shots in. Then you're going to want a mark shot, and then you're going to want to get 1 more aim shot in. This makes sure that the mark shot is hitting the vulnerable target and you're dumping your focus from aim shot into the vulnerable window. And after that, guys, you're going to want to make sure you're using your Sidewinders. Obviously, Sidewinders is our focus generating ability. It also triggers the Hunter's Mark, so we want to make sure that we're using this in a very smart way. We're not spamming this like we would spam an arcane shot or something like that, a steady shot. Sidewinders has 2 charges. We want to make sure one of 2 things. You use Sidewinders if it procs and you get a free Sidewinders, or it's about to cap the second charge. Only times you use Sidewinders, guys. You do not spam Sidewinders to gain any additional damage. It does nothing for you. So make sure you're using them to consume procs or if you're about to cap. The basic idea here, guys, is to maximize that vulnerable window. That is when we are doing the most damage as a marksmanship hunter. So do your best to aim shot, mark shot, keep yourself in the vulnerable window by being smart, knowing when to hit Sidewinders, and you will be just fine. And let's just talk about the opening sequence here, because I know most people have questions about opening sequences for classes. So we're going for 100% maximization here. First thing you're going to want to do right before the cast is Potion of Deadly Grace. We'll talk about that in a second. You're going to pre-cast Windburst at 1.5 seconds. You're going to use a Murder of Crows. You're going to pop True Shot Aura, and then you're going to Sidewinders, Barrage, Mark Shot, Aim Shot until you're about 80 focus or less, Sidewinders again, Mark Shot again, Sidewinders right before your True Shot ends, and then 1 final Mark Shot. What we're doing here, guys, is pumping in marked shots. That is the most important thing. It hits like a truck, and we want to capitalize on the True Shot ability that Sidewinders applies the Hunter's Mark to targets. So we're not really dumping that many aim shots into this rotation until we get into the normal rotation here. This is all about mark shots off the top, so focus on that. Make sure you know what you're doing. Take a look back. If you have any questions about that, let me know. I will help you out. Alright, so moving on to gearing. The hunter gearing is very straightforward, guys. There are very few questions here. Mastery, Agi, Haste. Those are the 3 things we want to focus on. Crit and Verse do their part, but they're not very important. We want to stack Mastery as it is above Haste in the stat priority list. We also want to obviously get Agility, and then we want to focus on Haste. It's as straightforward as possible. Stack the best stats. Mastery, Agi, Haste. There are no stats, soft or hard caps, worth chasing. there's nothing we need to worry about. So stack those stats. I would also highly recommend, I would urge you to use Pawn and use Azur's strings. Azur is the main theory craft for the hunters, and he has some great strings of information that will help you determine which items are upgrades. You can find his string to Pawn in the link below. If you have any questions about Pawn, I would highly recommend checking out Public's video that he did a few weeks ago. The kid is a wizard with Pawn. He knows Simcraft. He knows everything there is to know. So please check out the video, write him a comment or a question if you have one, and there you go. Find the upgrades that are best for you. In terms of gems, we're looking at 1 Saber's Eye of Agility, which is a plus 200 agility gem, and then we're going to use Masterful Shadow Rubies in all other sockets, which is a plus 150 mastery gem. So in terms of enchants, we're looking at Aegean Mastery enchants, either 200 or 150 if you're poor, and then the Mark of Hidden Satyr neck enchant, which summons a minion that deals 45,000 damage. Now, the Mark of a Hidden Satyr is a little expensive, and you can put it off, but once you get that piece of really good gear, I would highly recommend getting it on your neck piece. In terms of consumables, we're looking at Flask of the Seventh Demon, which increases your agility by 1,300, Potion of Deadly Grace, which unleashes a bolt of energy randomly, I guess you could say, at the target. So this is our new Agi pot, if you will. It's more of a DPS output pot, so that's the one we're going to want to be using throughout Legion at this time. In terms of food, we have the Nightborn Delicacy Platter and the Barracuda Mergulga, which is a 375 mastery or 300 mastery food. Exiled Power is using 300 mastery food right now because the 375 food is very expensive to make. We've been doing just fine with that. And then finally, you have the Defiled Augment Rune, which is a flat 325 increase to agility. Finally, guys, let's talk about legendaries. We have 4 hunter-specific marksman legendaries. We have Earl's Feather Snowshoes. This is the #1 legendary that you guys want because it reduces the cooldown of True Shot by 1 second each time you use a damaging ability. This is pretty much the pinnacle because True Shot is such a massive part of our rotation and our damage output. This is the one that you guys want. Every time you cast a damaging ability, you get a second off True Shot. So that really means that you're probably going to get another True Shot, a third or fourth if it's a really, really long fight. Into your boss. So that's really cool. That's definitely something that works well for the Marksmanship Hunter. Next, we have the War Belt of 7 Sentinels, which multi-shot and sidewinders increase damage of the next aim shot by 10%, and this stacks up to 20 times. This is a pure output legendary. It's a great one. It's our #2. Next, we have Zevrim's Hunger. Mark Shot has a 50% chance to not consume Hunter's Mark. It's a decent one. It's kind of random, kind of RNG based. I hear you. It gives you another Mark Shot. It's okay. It's good. It's a legendary. It's great, right? It's legendary. And then finally, we have Magnetized Blasting Cap Launcher, a pair of bracers here, which increases your bursting shot by 800%. I'm baffled as to why this is in the game. Bursting Shot is just absolutely garbage. I think it may change your AoE rotation slightly, but it's just garbage. It forces you to move in, cast this very short range bursty attack, and really not get much out of it. So there you go, guys. Those are the legendaries. That is the complete rundown of the Marksmanship Hunter. Honestly, I have a great time playing this class. If you're a raid leader or somebody that's interested in being a raid leader, I highly recommend the Marksmanship Hunter because it gives you every opportunity to see your raid team. It has a very wide field of vision. It allows you to back up, be at the furthest edge of an encounter. It also provides you with some mobility with aspect of the cheetah. If you play a goblin, you can get rocket jump. You can, if you're an engineer, you can put speed on your belt. I mean, there's so much you can do with the hunter to increase its mobility, to increase its utility. The Marksmanship Hunter fits in any raid comp. It is a jack of all trades. It does things well. I can't say that it does everything very well, but it does things well, and it's definitely a class that you want to have around. So that's it, guys. That's pretty much all I've got. If you have any questions about anything Marksman Hunter related or Beast Mastery or Survival Hunter, I'll do my best. I play the Marksmanship Hunter because it does well in raids. That's why you should play the Marksmanship Hunter. But hey, play what you like, play what you enjoy. That's what this game is all about. The Marksmanship Hunter is simming the highest in Emerald Nightmare right now. That may change. So that's it, guys. My name is Codiac, Raid Leader for Exiled Power. If you've liked the video, please subscribe to the channel, write us a comment, write us a question, anything you guys want to know. we will do our best to answer. And for now, that's all I've got. I hope you've enjoyed the video. See you next time.